Celeste danced like the night belonged to her. Every movement was deliberate, hips swaying like silk in slow motion, arms cutting through the air with liquid grace. Her body told a story without needing a single word. The stage wasn't just where she performed. It was her throne. She was more than a dancer. She was the queen of the night. She didn't smile. She didn't tease. She commanded. The crowd at Velvet Lights fell under her spell, like they always did. Drinks paused mid-air. Conversations died mid-sentence. Nothing else existed but the way she moved. The music thumped low, steady like a heartbeat, beneath the hazy red glow of the club. Velvet Lights wasn't just a club. It was a world where fantasy danced in spotlights, and reality hid behind curtains. And every night ended with Celeste. She didn't come out swinging. She walked, slow, powerful, undeniable. Long legs, bold curves, a gaze that didn't flirt. It devoured. She didn't entertain. She enchanted. Backstage, Tasha watched it all. Arms crossed, jaw tight. Her makeup was perfect. Her smile polished. But inside, she was cracking. While Tasha worked herself raw, flipping tricks on poles, laughing at drunk jokes, bending backward for tips, Celeste barely lifted a finger. Yet her jar, overflowing, always, she ain't even sweating. Tasha hissed, brushing glitter across her collarbone. And they throw money like she's a damn goddess. Girl, said Roxy, one of the newer dancers, giggling as she adjusted her boots. She is. You ain't heard? The VIP list don't move unless she's on it. Tasha rolled her eyes. Whatever. This club gonna remember my name too. I'm done waiting. And just like that, a storm began to brew behind Tasha's lashes. Meanwhile, outside the club, a black SUV pulled up. Inside sat Miles Kingston, Billionaire tech CEO, recently back from London. He didn't want to be there, but his friend insisted. I swear, just one show. His buddy chuckled. You'll thank me after. Miles sighed and stepped out, unaware that tonight wouldn't be about drinks or dances. It would be about a woman who'd change his life. Miles Kingston stepped into Velvet Lights like a man stepping into another universe. The dim lighting, the velvet drapes, the scent of perfume, and ambition. It hit him all at once. It wasn't his scene. At least, not anymore. He'd done the nightlife thing in his 20s. Now, at 34, success came in the form of quiet deals and silent power. Clubs were noise, distractions. Still, Jordan, his college friend and eternal party starter, clapped him on the back and grinned. Trust me, man. This place? Not like the others. Wait till you see her. Her. Miles raised an eyebrow as they were led to a private table near the stage. Jordan leaned in. Final act of the night. Name Celeste. You'll see. The show moved on in a blur. Other dancers sparkled and spun. Some talented, some just enthusiastic. The crowd cheered. Miles sipped his drink, unmoved. Then the lights dimmed further. A single spotlight. A hush. She stepped out. Celeste. Tall. Commanding. Her body moved like silk floating over fire. Controlled. Hypnotic. She didn't look at the crowd. She looked through them like they were lucky to witness her. Miles didn't blink. Jordan chuckled beside him. Told you. For the next 10 minutes, the room belonged to her. She didn't need props or tricks. Just her presence. And when the final beat hit, and she vanished behind the curtain, the audience erupted. Miles sat in silence. Then, with quiet certainty, he reached into his jacket, pulled out a pen, and scribbled something on the back of a business card. He waved a bouncer over and handed it off. For Celeste, no pressure. Just 15 minutes of her time, no strings. The bouncer took the card, read the name, Miles Kingston, then nodded. Backstage, Celeste wiped the sweat from her face and let out a deep breath. Another night, another performance. She had barely sat down when Andre, the floor manager, walked up with a grin and a white envelope in his hand. VIP request, he said, waving it like it was a prize. Celeste raised an eyebrow. From who? The man in the gray suit, front row. Name's Miles. Andre said, leaning in. He dropped $2 million. Cash. No photos, no noise. Just 10 minutes. Then he smiled. Said it's just a talk. Celeste nodded. Tell him I'll be there. The private suite was calm and quiet, with soft amber lights. No music. No loud voices. Just a leather couch, a bottle of cold water, and a man sitting alone. Miles. Celeste walked in with quiet confidence, wearing a satin robe. Her hair was still a little damp. She closed the door gently behind her. You called? She said, her voice soft but firm. Miles stood up. I did. He held out his hand. Miles Kingston. She looked at it for a moment, then shook it. Celeste. I know, he said with a small smile. Everyone does. She didn't reply, just sat across from him and crossed her legs, watching him closely. So what do you want? A dance? Something private? Miles shook his head. No, I just want to talk. She blinked. Talk? You paid $2 million just to talk? She asked, arms folded. Yes, he said, sitting back. A lot of people try to buy what they don't understand. I don't want to be like them. Celeste arched an eyebrow. And what do you want to understand? You, he said simply. The word sat in the air for a second too long. Celeste blinked, slightly taken aback, then gave a faint smile. Not coy. Curious. That's new. Miles chuckled. I doubt I'm the first man who's been captivated by you. She shrugged. Captivated, maybe. Curious, rarely. He leaned forward. So tell me, who are you when the lights go off? Celeste hesitated. Then slowly she answered. I'm a student, psychology major, dancer by night, trying to pay off my sister's hospital bills. Miles nodded, impressed. That's a full plate. It's survival, she said, eyes steady. Miles studied her. You do more than survive. You command. Celeste's guard wavered slightly. For a moment, her confidence dimmed to reveal something more delicate underneath. Why does that matter to you? She asked. He answered without missing a beat. Because when someone shines like that, there's usually a storm they dance through to get there. Celeste sat back, lips parted slightly, unsure what to say. But for the first time in a long time, she wanted to say something real. Backstage in the locker room of velvet lights, Tasha slammed her locker so hard the metal rang out like a warning. A few girls nearby flinched but didn't say a word. They knew that sound by now. The sharp clang of frustration. The sound of Tasha losing. Again. 2 million. She muttered, pacing in the back room, heels clicking. Just to talk? To her? Nobody responded. What could they say? Celeste had always been the headliner. The girl the regulars stayed late for. The one the new girls whispered about after their first shift. But now it wasn't just stage magic. It was real money. From a man who didn't even want to dance. That's not normal, Tasha hissed, grabbing a brush and yanking it through her wig. She's got some trick. I know it. From the corner, Zara spoke up quietly. Maybe she's just good. Tasha turned sharply. We all work just as hard. Some of us harder. But somehow, it's always Celeste they line up for. Zara lowered her eyes. Tasha kept ranting. She walks around here like she's some queen. Like the rest of us are just background dancers in her movie. Her voice was rising. I smile. I flirt. I hustle for every tip. And she? She barely blinks and they throw money at her. A long pause. I'm done watching her take everything. I'm done being invisible. Tasha whispered, her tone lower now, dangerous. If the game's unfair, then maybe it's time to change the rules. She grabbed her bag and stormed out of the room, leaving behind silence, and a chill that settled deep in the walls. Something had shifted, and whatever Tasha was planning, it wasn't going to be good. Outside, under the dull glow of the alley light, she pulled out her phone. Her fingers flew across the screen, typing a message to someone she hadn't spoken to in months. You still hang around the club after hours? Need a favor, not big. Just rattle someone's cage a little. Her thumb hovered over the send button. Then she pressed it. Back in the VIP room, Celeste laughed, really laughed, for the first time in a long while. Miles listened to her stories without judging, without asking for anything in return. He paid just to talk. No one had ever done that before. Miles smiled, calm and warm. He didn't know that outside those walls. Someone had already made a choice. She wasn't going to laugh for long. Later that night, velvet lights began to empty. The music faded, and the once vibrant club quieted into shadows and whispers. Miles walked out of the VIP suite alone, hands in his pockets, a thoughtful look on his face. Celeste stayed behind in the dressing room, wiping off her makeup. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. Dinner tomorrow? No pressure. Just conversation. She stared at it for a long moment. No club, no tips, no performance. Just dinner? The next evening, Celeste stepped into a private art gallery downtown. Modern, soft jazz playing from hidden speakers. Miles waited near a minimalist sculpture, hands in his coat pockets. You look... He paused, smiling gently. Different. Normal? Celeste teased, wearing jeans, a black blouse, and no heels. Beautiful, he corrected. She blushed but said nothing. They wandered through the gallery together, talking about everything and nothing. Art, psychology, how childhood shapes people, how pretending becomes performance. At one point, Miles said, "You know, I looked you up." Celeste tensed. "Really?" He nodded. "I know your real name is Celeste Monroe, and I know your little sister, Malia, is still in the hospital recovering from that accident last year." She stopped walking. "I'm not trying to scare you," he said gently. "I just needed to know if I was right about you being more than a fantasy." Celeste looked down. "She was hit by a drunk driver. Our parents are gone. It's just me. The club pays the bills." Miles reached into his coat, pulled out a folded envelope, and held it toward her. "What is this?" "A donation to the hospital in Malia's name. Enough to cover her next surgery." Celeste didn't move. "I'm not asking for anything in return," he said. "I just want to help someone who deserves to not carry the world alone." She looked up slowly. Her throat tightened. "I don't know what to say." "Then don't," Miles said softly. "Just say yes to being seen." Celeste sat alone on the edge of her bed later that night, the envelope still unopened beside her. The soft hum of the city outside her window did little to drown out the whirlwind in her head. Miles Kingston, a man with the kind of money that bought silence, loyalty, even bodies. Yet he had asked for none of those things. She danced for titans, senators, and celebrities, but never met one who offered help without expecting to own a piece of her in return. Was it real? Her phone buzzed. A simple message from Miles. "Hope you made it home safe. I meant what I said. No strings. Sleep well." She stared at the message for a long time before replying. "You scare me, you know." "Why?" "Because kindness like that usually comes with a catch." There was a pause. Then came his answer. "The only catch is you have to start believing you deserve more than what you've settled for." Celeste set the phone down and leaned back, exhaling deeply. The next morning, she visited her sister at the rehab center. Malia, just 14, beamed when she saw her. "I heard someone covered my surgery," Malia said excitedly. "Was that you?" Celeste forced a smile. "Kind of." Malia studied her. "You look different. Happy. Is something good happening?" Celeste hesitated, then gave a soft nod. "Maybe." That night she returned to the club. But her spirit was somewhere else. Her dance lacked its usual fire. Not because she didn't care, but because her mind was filled with one man and one question. What if this was the beginning of something real? Backstage, Tasha noticed the change. She watched Celeste in the mirror, noticed the faraway look, the soft smile that crept in when no one was looking. And it enraged her. While Celeste floated on hope, Tasha tightened her grip on rage. Her plan wasn't done. It had only begun. Rain misted the pavement outside velvet lights, turning neon reflections into shimmering pools. Celeste clocked out later than usual, her heels tucked into her tote, as she stepped barefoot into the night. too tired to care. She usually caught a ride, but tonight she needed air. The walk helped her think, helped her feel real after hours of pretending to be untouchable. A few blocks from the club, she turned down a quiet side street, the same one she always took. She didn't notice the shadow that peeled away from the alley behind her, or the second one that crossed the street and fell in step, slow, watching. Tasha, watching from across the road, leaned against a black sedan. Hoodie pulled low, arms folded, heart hammering with anticipation. She hadn't hired killers, just a couple of rough types from the old neighborhood, guys who knew how to scare a girl into quitting. Nothing too crazy. Just rattle her, she'd told them. Make her second guess coming back. Celeste slowed. She felt it. That invisible shift in the air. That primal alertness that something wasn't right. She stopped. Listened. Footsteps. Then, "Yo!" a voice barked from the shadows. Celeste spun, heart racing. Two figures stepped into the street, blocking her path. She didn't wait. She turned and ran, but her bag slipped. Her bare feet slapped wet concrete. She slipped and hit the ground hard, breath knocked out of her. One man reached for her wrist. Then headlights cut through the dark, tires screeching as the delivery van swerved to a stop. "Hey, hey! What the hell's going on?" The driver shouted. The men bolted, gone in seconds. The driver helped Celeste up, wide-eyed. "You okay?" Tears ran down her face. She could only nod, but as she stood trembling, soaked to the bone, one truth rang in her ears. Someone wanted to hurt her, not just rob her, target her. And only one person came to mind. Celeste sat in the police station, a blanket around her shoulders, hair still damp. Her hands trembled as she gave her statement to Officer Lynn, a sharp-eyed woman who listened more than she spoke. "They didn't take anything," Celeste said softly, voice cracking. "They didn't ask for money. It was like they just wanted to scare me. Or worse." Lynn jotted notes without breaking eye contact. "You recognize either of them?" Celeste shook her head. "They wore hoodies. I didn't get a good look." The officer leaned forward. "Is there anyone in your life who might want to hurt you?" Celeste hesitated. Tasha's name sat on her tongue like venom. But she had no proof. No photos. No audio. Nothing but a gut feeling. "No," she said instead, "not that I know of." Later that night, she sat curled on her couch in the dark, phone in hand. After a long pause, she called Miles. He answered on the first ring. "Celeste?" She didn't speak at first, just breathed. "Where are you?" he asked, already grabbing his keys. "At home," she whispered. Something happened. 20 minutes later, he was at her door. When she opened it, her eyes were puffy and tired. Her lips split slightly from the fall. Seeing her like that made Miles freeze. He stepped inside without a word, pulled her gently into his arms and held her. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "No," he said quietly. "You don't apologize for someone else's evil." Celeste pulled back, her voice shaking. "I think someone set it up." He nodded slowly. "Do you want to stay here tonight?" "I don't want to be alone," she whispered. "You won't be." Miles brought her home. His home. A minimalist apartment with high ceilings and city views, but warm with soft lighting and clean linens. He gave her tea, a hoodie, a toothbrush still in its wrapper, and space. When she finally slept, it was the first time in weeks she didn't dream of running. Outside, the city roared. Inside, Celeste finally rested. The morning light poured in through tall glass windows, washing the apartment in a golden calm. Celeste blinked awake, cocooned in soft blankets, wrapped in a peace she hadn't felt in a long time. For a brief second, she forgot everything. Then it hit her. The alley, the chase, the fear. Her breath caught in her throat. She sat up slowly, realizing she wasn't alone. In the armchair near the window, Miles sat with a tablet in hand, dressed in a fresh black tee and joggers, glancing at her with a tired but warm smile. "You didn't have to stay out here," she said softly. "I didn't want to make you uncomfortable," he replied. "You've been through enough." Her eyes welled. "You're too kind." Miles stood, walked over, and knelt beside the bed. Kindness isn't something you earn, Celeste. It's something everyone deserves. Especially you. She looked away. Most men would have seen last night as a reason to disappear. He reached for her hand. Most men aren't me. Later that morning, Celeste explored his apartment. It was sleek, sure, but there was warmth in the details. A framed photo of a dog from childhood, a shelf full of psychology books, a half-finished painting in the corner. He made her breakfast, simple, thoughtful. They ate in silence for a bit until she spoke. "I don't think I can go back to the club." "You don't have to," he said. "You've outgrown it anyway." Celeste let that settle in. It wasn't just a compliment, it was a release. That afternoon, his housekeeper arrived. 2 women in uniform. The older one glanced at Celeste with quiet judgment. The other whispered behind her hand as she passed. Celeste stiffened, Miles noticed. He turned sharply. "If there's a problem, say it out loud." They went silent. Miles faced Celeste again. "You're safe here, and you're wanted here. No matter who doubts it." Her heart swelled, but she swallowed the emotion. She wasn't used to being defended. But in that moment she realized, this wasn't just safety, it was sanctuary. A few days later, Celeste stood outside the precinct, waiting as Officer Lin reviewed a file behind her desk. The cold air bit at her cheeks, but her jaw was set. She had returned. She wasn't running from fear anymore. She was chasing justice. Inside, Lin met her with a nod. "You picked a good time to come in." Celeste sat down. "You found something." "We pulled security footage from the street near the alley," the officer said, tapping on her laptop. "The angle's rough, but we caught glimpses of 2 men loitering near the drop-off area before you arrived. One of them's in our system." Celeste's eyes widened. "Really?" "Name's Leon Brewster, known for petty intimidation jobs. He was arrested last night for an unrelated assault." Lin leaned forward. "When we questioned him, he cracked." Celeste's breath caught. "He talked?" "Gave us everything. Said they were paid to scare you. Just rattle you a bit. Said the money came from someone at the club." Celeste sat straighter. "Who?" Lin hesitated. "He claimed a dancer named Tosha gave them your walking route and a time." A silence fell. Celeste looked down, hands clenched. "I knew it. She hasn't been charged yet." Lin added, "But we're building a case. You may need to testify." Celeste nodded. "I will." Back at Miles's apartment, he was waiting at the window when she returned. She stepped in, cheeks flushed, eyes stormy. He didn't ask, just opened his arms. She collapsed into them. "She sent those men," Celeste whispered. Miles stiffened. "Tasha? She's been jealous for years. I just never thought—" He kissed her forehead. "She's not getting away with this." Later that night, they sat curled on the couch. Celeste scrolled through photos of her and her sister, thinking of all the times she'd almost quit dancing. All the nights she told herself to push through. Now she didn't have to. Now she had a reason to fight. With someone who'd fight beside her. The storm had a name, and soon so would justice. It was a slow morning at Velvet Lights. The music hadn't started. The chairs were still upside down on tables, and most of the dancers were just arriving, coffee in hand, and makeup half applied. Tasha strutted in like usual, heels clicking, shades on, phone glued to her ear. She was already ranting to someone about booking a photographer for a rebranding shoot. She didn't notice the 2 police officers enter. She didn't see Officer Lin walk straight past the bar, eyes locked on her. "Tasha King?" Lin's voice cut clean through the room. Tasha paused mid-sentence. Yeah?" "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit assault and endangerment," Lin said firmly. "You have the right to remain silent." "Wait, what?" Tasha backed up. "What are you talking about?" The other officer moved in, already snapping handcuffs onto her wrists. Gasps rippled through the club. Dancers stopped mid-stretch. The DJ stood from behind his booth. One of the bartenders muttered. "Damn!" Tasha twisted in shock. "No, this is a mistake. I didn't touch anyone." "You didn't have to," Lin said flatly. "You paid others to do it for you." Tasha looked around, wild-eyed, hoping someone would defend her. But no one moved. Not Roxy, not the manager, not even the security guard she flirted with last weekend. As she was escorted through the club, Celeste stepped in from the hallway. Calm, composed. Their eyes met. Tasha's mouth opened, but no words came out. Celeste didn't blink, didn't gloat. She simply said, "You could have used your power to rise. Instead, you chose to destroy." Tasha was dragged out the doors into the daylight she'd tried to avoid for years. Inside, the club felt quieter than usual, like something dark had finally lifted. Celeste turned and walked away, head high, shoulders back, done dancing in the shadows of someone else's bitterness. The dressing room was almost empty. Celeste stood alone in front of her locker, the soft hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Her makeup kit lay open, half used, next to her favorite stage heels. Silver, scuffed at the toes, worn smooth at the soles. They had carried her through so many nights, but tonight wasn't one of them. She placed each item gently into a small box. Her glitter palettes, her backup earrings, the photo of her and Malia taped to the inside of the locker door. She stared at the photo for a long time, then peeled it down. One of the other dancers, Roxy, peeked in from the doorway. "You really leaving?" Celeste nodded. "It's time." Roxy stepped in slowly. Tasha. She had a hold on all of us, even when she wasn't outright cruel. She made this place heavy. Celeste gave a faint smile. "You don't need her shadow to shine, Roxy." Roxy grinned. "Guess you're living proof." They hugged briefly, and then Celeste zipped up her bag and slung it over her shoulder. Her heels dangled from her fingers like relics of a past life. As she walked through the club's main floor, she looked up at the stage one last time. The soft lights flickering, the smell of liquor and perfume clinging to the curtains. She didn't feel sadness, just peace. Outside, Miles waited beside his black SUV, dressed casually but with that effortless composure he always carried. When their eyes met, he smiled. "Ready?" Celeste nodded. "For more than you know." He opened the car door for her, and as she stepped in, a breeze caught her curls, lifting them gently as if even the wind was offering a send-off. Inside the car, she took one last look at velvet lights through the window, then turned away. Forward, free. The apartment smelled like cinnamon tea and fresh pages. Celeste sat cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by textbooks, flashcards, and notes from her first week of classes. She hadn't realized how much she missed learning. Real learning. Not choreography or rehearsed smiles, but lectures, case studies, human behavior. Psychology had always fascinated her. Now it was her major, her path, her future. Across the room, Miles leaned against the kitchen island, reading over an investor's report, but his eyes kept drifting toward her. "You've been at it for hours," he said. "Need a break?" She looked up, highlighter tucked behind her ear. "Only if it comes with ginger cookies." He chuckled. Done. He disappeared into the kitchen while Celeste leaned back and closed her eyes, letting the hum of peace wash over her. The last few weeks had felt like a lifetime. Leaving the club, Tasha's arrest, enrolling full-time in college. She still walked cautiously sometimes, double-checking locks, keeping her phone charged, glancing over her shoulder at night. But mostly, she felt whole. Safe. After tea and cookies, they sat on the balcony, as the city sparkled below. "I spoke to the dean today," Celeste said softly. "They approved me for the Women in Leadership Scholarship. Covers the rest of the semester." Miles grinned. "Of course they did. You're a star." She smiled, but it faded just slightly. "You're proud of me." Miles turned to face her completely. "I've always been proud of you. You're doing all of this on your own." She paused. "Not all on my own." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small key. "What's this?" she asked. "Front door," he said. "Yours officially, if you want it." Celeste stared at the key, heart thudding. "I want you here," Miles said quietly. "Not just as a guest, as my partner, my peace." Tears stung her eyes. She didn't respond with words, just leaned in and kissed him, because some answers didn't need speaking. The estate was quiet, too quiet. Tall white columns framed the front porch like judgmental eyes. Polished silverware glinted under chandeliers inside, and everything smelled like old money and pressed linens. Miles reached for Celeste's hand as they stepped out of the car. "You sure about this?" she whispered. He squeezed gently. "It's time." Inside, his parents, Richard and Claudia Kingston, were seated at the head of a long dining table, both stiff with that kind of poised coldness born from generations of reputation and restraint. Claudia smiled politely, but her eyes scanned Celeste like she was a resume. "A pleasure," she said. "You're certainly striking." "Thank you, Mrs. Kingston," Celeste replied, her tone warm but firm. The meal began awkwardly. Small talk about real estate, markets, and Miles's latest business deal. Celeste stayed quiet, sensing the unsaid questions beneath every glance. Then came the inevitable. "So, Celeste," Richard said, dabbing the corner of his mouth, "what line of work were you in before returning to school?" Celeste didn't flinch. "I was a performer. I danced professionally at a club called Velvet Lights. It helped me pay for my sister's medical bills and put myself through college." Silence. Claudia's fork froze midair. Richard cleared his throat. Miles leaned forward. "And now she's a top student on a full scholarship. She's stronger than anyone I've ever met." His parents exchanged glances. Claudia offered a brittle smile. "Well, everyone has their own path." Celeste smiled back, sweet but sharp. "Yes. Some just have to build theirs brick by brick while others are born on the road." After dinner, they drove home in silence, until Miles finally spoke. "I'm sorry," he muttered. "Don't be," Celeste said softly, staring out the window. "I wasn't expecting to be embraced, just respected." Miles turned to her. "I respect you, and if they can't, that's their loss, not mine." That night, back in their apartment, Miles took her hand and kissed her palm. "No matter what they think," he said, "this is home. You and me." Celeste exhaled slowly and smiled. For once, she didn't care what anyone thought. She already had everything that mattered. 1 year later, the sun dipped low behind the hills, painting the sky in soft gold as it bathed the backyard of a modest house just outside the city. The air shimmered with quiet joy, laughter rising gently from the patio, where friends gathered with drinks in hand, smiles bright beneath string lights swaying in the evening breeze. On the table sat a small cake, white icing carefully piped. "Congratulations, Celeste." She stood at the edge of the lawn, just beyond the soft chatter, her cream dress flowing like light itself. Her curls were pinned up, delicate wisps dancing around her glowing face. In one hand, she held her graduation cap. In the other, Miles's hand. "You did it," he whispered. Celeste turned to him, her eyes shining, not just with pride, but with memory, with everything they had survived. She squeezed his hand. "We did it. A year ago, it had all still felt impossible. The arrest, the trial, the slow and painful process of healing. The nightmares, the doubt, the silence between them that sometimes felt too wide to cross. But she had kept going. One step, one class, one breath at a time. Now she had graduated with honors, a degree in psychology held in the same hands that once clung to survival. She had accepted a paid internship at a community mental health center, one dedicated to trauma recovery and reintegration. "I want to help girls like me," she'd told the interviewer, her voice steady. Girls who danced through storms. Laughter erupted from the crowd as she cut the cake, and when the cheers quieted, Miles raised his glass. "To Celeste," he said, "who walked through fire, and then built a bridge so few others could cross. You are the strongest person I know." The applause was warm and full. But Celeste didn't look to the crowd. She turned to Miles and kissed him softly. Later, when the guests had gone and the twilight turned to hush, they sat together on the porch swing, barefoot, fingers entwined. The trees rustled gently around them, and the stars began to blink to life above. Miles glanced at her. "Do you still think about it?" "The club?" she asked, then nodded. "Sometimes. It was survival. But it's not my story anymore, Not all of it. You were always more, he said, even before you saw it. She smiled and rested her head against his shoulder. From dancer to graduate, from survivor to healer, from shadows to sunlight. This, she whispered, gazing out at the sky. This is my real stage now. Miles kissed her temple. You were always the star. They rocked gently in silence. The peace between them no longer hard-won, but earned. Held. Lived. There were no lights, no music, no crowd. Just love. Just healing. Just them. The end. If you love this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more captivating stories like this one.